The Philippine Army is the main, oldest, and largest branch of the armed forces of the Philippines, responsible for ground warfare and currently has an estimated strength of over 100,000 soldiers, backed by 120,000 ready reserves. The Army traces its roots in the Philippines to the Philippine Revolutionary Army founded in 1897, before the service branch was established on 1935. The Philippine Army has engaged in many conflicts including the ongoing Communist Rebellion in the Philippines and the Moro conflict, and other conflicts worldwide. For 124 years, the Philippine Army served as the protector of the Filipinos and a key player of nation building. Today, the Philippine Army continues to innovate its forces and victor against all battles and threats to serve the people and secure them. In this documentary, we will talk about the modernization of the armed forces of the Philippines. First, is the modernization of the Philippine Army. The AFP modernization program entails the development and employment of certain capabilities that can address the assessed threats, provided that the acquisition of Air Force, Navy, and Army equipment and material of such types and quantities shall be made in accordance with the need to develop AFP capabilities. The government acquired game-changer equipments that will boost the capability and defense capacity of the Philippine Army, in addressing the threats both in local and territorial issues. The Philippines is one of the most thriving democracy in Asia, and one of the fastest growing economy in the world. Being the backbone of Philippine democracy, the armed forces must strengthen itself in order to defend the nation from any kinds of threats and to preserve the security of the state. That's why the AFP pushed its goal for modernization. One of the main goals of the AFP modernization program is to build a credible defense posture. To build a strong and world-class armed forces, which is a source of national pride. During the modernization of the armed forces under the leadership of Aquino administration, the government acquired basic but necessary equipments such as trucks, helmets, and other stuffs. But the Aquino administration's realignment of the budget for missiles, in exchange of buying helmets, delayed the modernization of the AFP in terms of having its own shore-based missile system. During the time of President Aquino, the armed forces received the donations of the United States of second-hand but refurbished M113 APCs, a Vietnam-era armored personnel carrier, second-hand patrol vessels from the United States and 12 light combat trainer aircrafts from South Korea, which is a part of Horizon 1, scoped in his time of leadership. Under the term of President Rodrigo Duterte, Zeta said the AFP was able to complete a total of 54 projects under RA 7898, AFP Modernization Act, and RA 10349, Revised AFP Modernization Act, while 70 other projects were also delivered. President Duterte focused on modernizing the defense capability, especially in modern equipments such as warships, surface assets such as missile boats and fast attack crafts, anti-submarine corvette, infantry fighting vehicles, fire support vehicles, modern tanks, and wheeled APCs, combat aircrafts, attack helicopters, medium-lift helicopters, amphibious assault vehicles, the upcoming MRF, the proposed Corvette acquisition, UAVs, the upcoming submarines, ground-based missile systems and air defense systems. One of those missiles that the Duterte administration has acquired will be delivered this year 2021, the Spider ground-based missile system from Israel. In this documentary, we will discuss the equipments that this government has acquired in its goal to modernize the Philippine Army. Since the establishment of the Philippine Army in 1935, the Philippines has been in huge delay in terms of modernizing our defense capability compared to our neighbors in Asia. Even though the Philippine military has long faced a range of internal and external challenges, including insurgencies, natural disasters, and unresolved territorial and sovereignty issues with neighboring states, it has also suffered from anemic and at times a strategic investment in past periods. While the country has been trying to make up for this through advancing a phased Armed Forces Modernization Act over the next few decades, with 3 horizons or phases initially out to 2028, the defense budget every year tends to be scrutinized for continuity and change with respect to that longer-term trajectory. President Rodrigo Duterte recently decided to bankroll the second phase of the 15-year Armed Forces of the Philippines, AFP, modernization program. The plan for the program involves 3 5-year phases, or horizons. The first horizon, which began in 2013 and ended in 2017, involved purchases of military hardware mainly for internal security challenges, though it included some big-ticket air and naval acquisitions for external defense. The second horizon, which will be implemented from 2018 to 2022, entails an ambitious transition period wherein the AFP will shift its arms acquisitions away from internal security to territorial defense. This will require a huge allocation of 300 billion pesos, about $5.6 billion. The improvement in the capabilities of the Army is vital to maintain and sustain the sovereignty of the country and its people, from land security to the development of the society. The Philippine Army, PA, continuously upgrades its capabilities through the implementation of modernization projects under Republic Act, RA 7898, also known as the AFP Modernization Act, and its amended version, RA 10349, establishing the revised AFP Modernization Program, and for other purposes in keeping up to the changing operational environment. The Office of the Assistant Chief of Staff for Logistics, G4 of the PA, is the office primary responsible in facilitating and monitoring the implementation of the said projects. A total of 114 PA modernization projects has been programmed and 63 of which were already completed. For the past year, one of the completed projects is the acquisition of 44 units of 60mm mortar which were delivered last March 3, 2019 with a contract price of 106,900,000 pesos. But through the efforts of the government in its goal to modernize our military, the Philippines acquired game-changer equipments, such as the light tank and wheeled tank acquisition of the Philippine Army. To provide a starting point for the Philippine Army's goal of re-establishing its lost armored/tank capabilities, the Mechanized Infantry Division, MID, has proposed the acquisition of light or medium tanks to enable them to relearn the operation and use of tanks in different combat situations. The Philippine Army's light tank acquisition project was born after a long study and debate within the organization on whether to go for heavy main battle tanks whose combat weight is between 55 to 70 tons, or light or medium tanks whose combat weight would be less than 42 tons. While plans to acquire main battle tanks remain, the MID would like to learn first from operating modern light/medium tanks to determine if they're suitable enough to meet their current and future requirements. According to Max Defense, in 2018, Turkish defense company FNSS and its partner, Indonesian defense company PT Pindad, offered the FNSS Pindad Kaplan MT medium tank to the Philippine Army for its light/medium tank requirements under the Horizon 2 phase of the revised AFP modernization program. The FNSS and PT Pindad officials, together with their local representative, met with Philippine Army officers regarding the said offer. It is believed the meeting happened in 2018, as the Philippine Army officers are still using the old BDU instead of the Filarpad issued to most top Army officers. The Kaplan MT, also known as the Harimau Hitam in Indonesia, is a new armored vehicle jointly developed by FNSS and PT Pindad, and was originally designed to fulfill the medium tank requirements of the Indonesian Army, TNI ad. While it is still being tested by the TNIAD, it was expected to be in full production in 2019 and may fulfill the Philippine Army's own requirements. The Kaplan MT is also being developed as an armored infantry fighting vehicle armed with a medium-caliber autocannon. But there are changes that turned the events into a very interesting one. PT Pindad sent the Pindad FNSS Thermo medium tank and the Pindad Anoa 6x6 wheeled armored vehicle to the Philippines, both of which will be for viewing by Philippine military and defense officials, as well as for possible testing in Philippine conditions. This is despite the DND already sticking to the Acquisition Decision Memorandum, ADM, it released a few months ago, wherein they will be sticking to a government-to-government, G2G, mode of procurement, most probably with Israel. This is a problem for PT Pindad since the Philippines and Indonesia has no mechanism that allows G2G procurement between the two countries. All procurement of Indonesian products are through commercial procurement, either direct or through public bidding. PT Pindad appears to be fighting on until a contract is signed between the DND and the winning proponent, as it hopes that changes can still be made to its favor. In 2020, Elbit Systems has unveiled its Sabra light tank family, which is the latest offering made by the Israeli company to the Philippine Army's light tank acquisition project, replacing an earlier offer. But there is actually a reason why Elbit Systems made changes in their offer. A copy of the Notice of Award, NOAA, and DND Bids and Awards Committee resolution were leaked through unofficial online sources, confirming Max Defense Philippines' earlier information that Elbit Systems won the light tank acquisition project of the Philippine Army, and that a NOAA was released in their favor several weeks ago. Among the information posted were the following: contract price. The price for the project was $172,220,000 which is lower than the original offer. According to our source, Elbit was able to reduce the amount due to the difference in price of the Oto Melara Hitfact turret and Elbit's own Sabra turret, which was said to be cheaper. Freebies. The DND-BAC resolution mentioned that Elbit Systems Land will be providing the following: 2 6x6 or 8x8 armored vehicles, still subject to discussions, 3 tank transporters, 5 sniper locator systems, and 100 rounds of 105mm tank ammunition. This is also different from the original offer made by Elbit Systems, which include 1,000 rounds of 105mm tank ammunition and 155mm howitzer ammunitions. According to sources, 1,000 rounds of tank and artillery ammunition costs a lot more than 2 armored vehicles, 3 tank transporters and 5 sniper locator systems. Although these freebies are better, as ammunition can be bought through standard acquisition using annual funds of the Philippine Army. The sniper locator systems is actually an interesting one, since Elbit Systems also won a separate contract for sniper locator systems as part of the Philippine Army's C4 Star Lot 2 sniper fire location detection system, which is worth PHP 120 million and includes the acquisition of 30 acoustic and 5 electro-optical sniper fire locator sensors. The Department of Budget and Management, DBM. This amount covers for the second of 3 multi-year contractual authority, MYCA, budget allocations for the light tank acquisition project. This means that the project continues to proceed as planned, after being awarded to Elbit Systems Land C4I in 2020. It remains though if the project will proceed with the planned delivery of the initial batch by early 2022. And complete delivery by 2023 will still proceed. Aside from light tanks and wheeled tanks acquisition, to further improve the capabilities of its existing mechanized assets, the Philippine Army has raised a project to upgrade the firepower capabilities of its tracked armored vehicles. The M113 APC firepower upgrade project was then among those included in the Horizon 2 phase of the revised AFP modernization program. The goal was to gradually improve the firepower of its M113-based armored vehicles based on the limited budget provided to the service. The original plan was to improve the firepower capabilities of at least 32 units of its M113A2 tracked armored personnel carriers, selected from those that were not upgraded by other projects. These 32 units will receive M134 minigun 7.62x 51mm Gatling guns, which will be acquired and installed locally. In addition, all 32 vehicles will have protected armored canopy that can fit the barrel of the M134 minigun, as well as improved communications equipment and other improvements. The budget for this plan was 288 million pesos, which was small especially when compared to other projects. But lessons learned from the Battle of Marawi in 2017 made the Philippine Army rethink on its plan. It was found that 7.62mm machine gun rounds are ineffective against concrete walls, and even 12.7mm heavy machine gun rounds have the same effects. Thus, a revised plan was made to instead use larger caliber guns, like the 25mm autocannon, which will be more powerful against concrete structures than the 12.7mm heavy machine gun, while also capable of destroying typical light armored vehicles. In line with President Duterte's policy to address the projected threat of ISIS-inspired acts of terror, the Philippine Army, based on the recent AFP memorandum on its revised initial wish list submitted to Chief of Staff AFP early this month, proposed the firepower upgrade of several more M113A2 armored personnel carriers, as RCWS-equipped APCs and IFVs, as well as introduction of 120mm mortar carriers, as part of the PAWS Horizon 2 phase program. The Philippine Army has its 4 infantry fighting vehicles, armed with its 25mm unmanned turret from Israel. 44 were upgraded and installed with Elbit 12.7mm Arcus, while 5 M113A2 were converted to armored mortar carriers with Soltum Cardum 81mm mortar. 15 more M113A2 Plus in mortar carrier configuration were ordered in February 2019 from Elbit Systems. The Armor Division's M113A1B were upgraded to M113A2 Plus standard, integrated by Elbit Systems with turret and 76mm L23A1 gun from decommissioned FV101 Scorpion CBRT. There are also a few M113A1 armed with the 76mm L23A1 gun and turret, but was done in-house by the Philippine Army. Transformed into fire support vehicles, consists of 18 FSV of the Armor Division.
We will chart our own course with the national interest of this country. But I'm afraid that if we cannot understand each other, we have to pray for that. We have to do something. What way can we best defend our country? Because there's never a time that we will attack. But I am sure that I guarantee to them na kung kayong pumasok dito, it will be bloody. And we will not give it to them easily. It will be the bones of our soldiers, pati na yung akin, pisalin ninyo. We will not allow any country to bambuso. I will not allow that. Sabi, ngayon, gusto ninyong irayan natin? Sino bang gusto na? Kasi payag ako. I can declare war on China tonight.
We must have a strong republic to withstand all threats and challenges. Today's reality demands, necessitates, an armed forces that is strong. I will build a credible armed forces that can fight at all fronts everywhere. I really do not know how many will sprout up, but we have the ISIS and the NPA. Maybe I'll make use of what was offered by a country. It's a high altitude plane. It can see the ground. So before sila mag-alis ng station or anywhere, everywhere, they should study first the image from above. I believe the Philippines with a very strong military.
In the inventory of Army Artillery Regiment, the Philippine Army has a lot of artillery equipments and weapons. such as the 105mm towed howitzer of the Philippine Army, with a total of 254 units. Aside from 105mm howitzers, the Philippine Army also has its own 155mm Soltum towed howitzers, with 12 units in its inventory. The Philippine Army has also embarked on the acquisition of additional artillery systems to improve its capabilities and increase its firepower delivery in support of ground forces. The Philippine Army's 155mm howitzer self-propelled system acquisition project is the latest acquisition program that focuses on shoot and scoot through combining mobility and firepower. This project appears to be a follow-on to the improvements provided by an earlier acquisition project involving the delivery of additional 155mm towed howitzers for the PA's Army Artillery Regiment, AAR. This would be the first time that the PA would undertake the acquisition of brand new self-propelled howitzer systems, although this is not the first time that the Philippine Army will be operating such systems. In May 3, 2021, the Department of Budget and Management, DBM, has released funding worth 835 million pesos, dated 19th of April 2021 and released on the same day. This amount covers for the second of 3 multi-year contractual authority, MYCA, budget allocations for the howitzer 155mm self-propelled acquisition project of the Philippine Army under the Duterte administration. This means that the project continues to proceed as planned, after being awarded to Elbit Systems Land C4I in 2019. It remains though if the project will proceed with the planned delivery of the initial batch by mid or late 2021, and complete delivery by April 2022 will still proceed. Aside from artillery cannons and self-propelled howitzers, the Philippine Army, particularly the Army Artillery Regiment or AAR, will also use strong weapons such as multiple launch rocket systems and land-based missile system. This was displayed by the Army Artillery Regiment as proof of concept for these weapons of the Philippine Army. The multiple launch rocket system of the Philippine Army, or the K-136 Koryong, is a South Korean rocket artillery system that was deployed in 1986. The multiple rocket launcher has 36 tubes and fires 130mm, 131mm rockets. Payload is conventional high explosive and pre-fragmented heat, containing 16,000 steel balls at a range of 22 or 30 kilometers. The Philippine Army is expected to receive at least 3 batteries of used K-136 Koryong MLRS from South Korea, and the Philippine Army has requested PHP 1.9 billion for repairs and refurbishing, logistics to bring the launchers and munitions home to the Philippines, and for building the needed facilities to store the rocket munitions in a controlled environment. Because of the huge amount needed, the project was escalated now as part of the second list of Horizon 2, from being just a normal project of the Philippine Army. The Philippine Army also displayed the land-based missile system of the AFP, the BrahMos cruise missile. On March 2, 2021, the Philippines and India signed a government-to-government agreement on defense equipment procurement, paving the way for the sale of the BrahMos missile to the Philippines. In 2020, local media reported that India offered the Philippines a $100 million credit line for the purchase of Indian weapons systems, most notably BrahMos missiles, but now a Filipino government source involved in the deal said the amount of the Indian loan could be higher. In January 2020, the CEO of BrahMos Aerospace, Sudhir Mishra, visited the Philippines to discuss the sale of the BrahMos missile system. A mock-up prototype unit of the Philippine Army version of the BrahMos missile launcher was shown. The missiles were fitted on a semi-trailer towed by a South Korean Kia KM500 truck of the Philippine Army. In addition, in the spring of 2020, there were reports of the Philippine Navy's intention to purchase 3 batteries of the BrahMos system. Earlier, Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana said the acquisition program for the BrahMos would push through after his department and India's Defense Ministry signed on March 2 the implementing agreement concerning the procurement of defense material and equipment. As of now, it is a go. The implementing agreement recently signed will facilitate the G2G or government-to-government mode of procurement, the Defense Secretary said. When asked how many BrahMos batteries the country would procure, he answered only one would be acquired. 1 battery only. It will consist of 3 systems, Lorenzana said. A missile battery typically consists of 3 mobile autonomous launchers with 2 or 3 missile tubes each, along with the tracking systems. The BrahMos cruise missile can be launched from a ship, aircraft, submarine, or land and has a top of Mach 3 and capable of carrying warheads weighing 200 kg to 300 kg. The acquisition of a land-based missile system is under Horizon 2 of the revised Armed Forces of the Philippines Modernization Program, which is slated for 2018 to 2022 and geared for the acquisition of equipment for external defense and has a budget of 300 billion pesos. The BrahMos is a Russian-Indian missile project, a medium-range ramjet supersonic cruise missile that can be launched from submarine, ships, aircraft, or land. It is the fastest supersonic cruise missile in the world. And for the Philippine Navy and Philippine Air Force's modernization achievements under the Duterte administration, the Navy will receive the deliveries of new fast attack interdiction craft missile from Israel, with technology transfer that will allow the Philippines to build its own version of the missile ship. Some of these ships will be built in Cavite Shipyard, owned by the Philippine Navy, set to be delivered in the first quarter of 2022. The Philippine Navy will also receive new missile-capable corvettes from South Korea, which is more bigger and stronger than the frigates of the Philippine Navy, and offshore patrol vessels from Australia, that will also be built locally in the Philippines. For the Philippine Air Force, it is set to receive T-129 attack helicopters from Turkey this year, and additional Black Hawk utility helicopters, delivery year 2021. The Philippine Air Force will also receive its new JAS-39 Saab Gripen MRF or multi-role fighter jets, and Russian-made medium-lift helicopters. And to the Philippine Coast Guard modernization, the Philippine Coast Guard has launched its newest and biggest Coast Guard ship that was made in Japan, the 94-meter multi-role response vessel acquired by the Duterte administration, to boost our maritime patrols and defense capability in the West Philippine Sea. Indeed, the armed forces of the Philippines has grown big, compared to what it was in the past, under the leadership of the past administrations. It has taken a great leap forward, in building a credible defense posture, to become a world-class armed forces, that is a source of national pride. Because of the efforts of the Duterte administration, the Philippines will now become a strong, modern, and credible nation, capable of defending its territories from any kinds of threats. This is now your modern AFP.
Gone are the days when the Philippines decides and acts in the shadows of the great powers. We will assert what is rightfully ours and fight for what is rightfully due to the Filipino people.